And as always, your views and comments are welcome on the show. Look for us on our social media handles. Joy News on TV, on Facebook, and on Twitter. You can send us a comment with the hashtag The Pulse. We'll be glad to share your thoughts with the rest of the world. My name is Francis Aban. Once again, you're welcome. We were promised that today's decision will have a bearing on Ghana's December 7 elections. Well, the judgment was unanimous and without ambiguity. The Supreme Court has ordered the Electoral Commission to allow disqualified candidates to correct errors on their nomination forms for avoidance of doubt, the very errors that formed the basis for their disqualification. In a unanimous decision read by presiding judge Justice Sufaya Adinyira, the Apex Court ordered the EC to extend the nomination period for another 24 hours to allow all the disqualified candidates to correct their errors. We'll surely get some more details from our correspondent who was in court monitoring proceedings. But as you can imagine, this ruling was that to question that of the High Court on Dr. Ndom's ability to correct the errors. Well, his lawyer, Joseph Ni-Aikwe-Otu, had some few words to share with us after today's proceedings.
Oh, you are aware that under the Constitution there's what we call access to the courts, and the courts would usually not accept exclusion clauses that, take away the right of people to come to courts. So we have been doing well since the advent of this new constitutional dispensation since January 1993, and it's only one of those cases that we've done. The important thing is the right of the party to say, look, I'm going to court. I'm not going to take to the streets, but I'm going to court. And that is the beauty of the whole thing. And the tenacity of purpose, the willingness of the judges to listen, to the parties and come out with a decision. So I think that democracy is thriving. Constitutionalism is thriving. The rule of law is working. Article 23, always remember that it says public officials and public bodies, must work within the law which says the law, and they should be fair to everybody. And whoever feels that he is aggrieved by the way they have treated him can come to court. So what other, right do you want when you have been told that when you are not happy, just come to court? And the judges are there to listen.
So that of Joseph Ni-Aikwe-Otu, he is the lawyer for Dr. Ndom, the man whose qualification was questioned by the EC, went to court, sought an order, got it from the High Court, and then that order was questioned by the EC, who today were told that, look, allow each disqualified aspirant the chance to go through the process of correcting anomalies on their forms. Well, the Progressive People's Party was particularly happy about today's proceedings, calling it a victory for them and also for democracy in the country. We can hear from the party's national chairman, Ni Alote Bruhammad.
As comes to us as a good verdict, and it also comes to us as a shining example for the rest of Africa to follow. I mean, this is a landmark decision that we should all be proud of. All Ghanaians should be proud of. We believe that the people of Ghana need clean pipe water to drink. And for the many who are struggling and competing with the goats and cows to drink that same water, the time is now there for them to choose the right party. And that's a PPP, that Dr. Papa Kwesi, so that we can get rid of all these diseases that arises from drinking groundwater with the goats and cows. And look around. How many people, have access to toilets? It's degrading for Ghana to be classified as the second to Sudan in open defecation. And what is open defecation? It's the diseases, malaria, all these things, cholera related. So we need to end it. And if we're going to end it, then we're not going to end it with those who have been given opportunity to serve this country for the last 24 years. It will be with Dr. Papa Kwesi and the Progressive People's Party.
Those are reactions to today's decision at the Supreme Court. Let's bring you a lowdown. Details of today's proceedings are spelled out at the Supreme Court. Yes, we know the panel were unanimous in their ruling, but let's get to the details now. Joseph Akable was there for us. Joseph, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
So, first of all, walk us through the charges that the EC sent to the court asking for the decision of the High Court to be overturned and then the verdict of the court?
So there were three issues. Now, the first one is that the EC is of the view that the High Court erred in law when they pronounced that the Electoral Commission failed to obey CI 94 Regulation 92. That talks about the fact that the Commission, upon identifying a mistake on someone's nomination form, will give the person an opportunity to correct that mistake within the nomination period. Secondly, they are questioning the capacity of the High Court to have heard the matter in the very first place. And by extension, they are saying that those who took the matter, they didn't go using the right procedure. They are of the view that they should have filed a petition rather than seek a judicial review and subsequently to have it quashed. Then the main issue had to do with the fact that they are of the view again that the directive the High Court gave was beyond the powers of the High Court. So those were the three main issues that they put before the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court, in the judgment on the very first one, said that the High Court did not err in law. They rightfully interpreted that provision that talks about the fact that the Commission failed to offer the various nominees an opportunity to correct the mistake. Then on the second one about the jurisdiction and whether they had the capacity to hear the matter, the court again agreed with the High Court on that. It was the third one in terms of the order directed at the Electoral Commission that the Supreme Court held that for that one, it was something that the High Court acted beyond its powers. So they set that one aside. And at that point, you can imagine the anxiety in the courtroom. That has been put aside. Then the Supreme Court went ahead to make pronouncements and giving specific orders to the Electoral Commission. And the first one is that they've extended the nomination period right from when the judgment was delivered up until the close of work tomorrow. So it has been extended to all nominees, not just Dr. Ndumu's matter was before the court, but all the 12 disqualified nominees whose form was rejected by the Electoral Commission.
Okay, now I need to ask this question at this point. When you say nomination period extended, does that mean that for anyone who picked forms from the Electoral Commission, whether they contested it as being disqualified or not, they can in fact submit forms between today and tomorrow on this? Is that what the court
No,
is
it
saying?
applies to those who presented the form. You know, there were some who picked who didn't present it. So we are talking about those who presented the form. They also gave the filing fee to the commission, and the commission, based on some mistakes, decided to disqualify them. So all what the court has done is that you didn't give them an opportunity that they were supposed to enjoy per the CI. So the court has asked an extension of the period to offer them that opportunity to correct those mistakes. So that is how it works out.
Okay, that's for the first leg. There were two other provisions.
Yeah, so then the other one had to do with the fact that it applies to all of them, all the nominees, and the third one being the fact that all the other matters that are before the various courts, the judge is saying that a stay of court proceedings, that means that he has halted or suspended all proceedings. In legal terms, it is a stop to processes, but the court can decide to allow it to continue if the circumstances change. But as it stands, the main reason the court granted that, the judge mentioned that it has to enable the EC to go ahead with the processes. So the expectation is that once that opportunity is given by tomorrow, by the close of tomorrow, we'll know those who have qualified. Then again, we can go ahead with the balloting and the electoral cycle continues again.
Okay, interesting details there. But tell me something. When this judgment was given in the courtroom today, tell us first the reaction of the Electoral Commission.
And you know, that is, for the sequence of the judgment, you realize that on the very first two issues, the court didn't agree with the EC. But on the third issue, they agree with the Electoral Commission. So at that point in time, you could get those in the courtroom, the PPP, they were a bit happy. But for those on the other side, the EC, they were definitely not excited. Then eventually, that third one came in their favor. They were very happy. But then again, the final order, again, didn't go in their favor. But for the very same person who is at the center of the entire dispute in court, Thaddeus Sorry, he's one who doesn't often speak. This time around, he spoke briefly, and he says it's a victory for democracy.
We can hear from him now.
It is a victory for democracy. The court was very categorical in its orders. We came here on three grounds: error of law, wrongful assumption of jurisdiction, excess of jurisdiction. And the court agreed with us that whilst there was evidence that there was an error of law on the face of the record, it did not go to the court's jurisdiction, so it wouldn't quash it. It dismissed our second ground, but upheld the third ground.
Interesting. So we watched Thaddeus Sorry speak. We didn't see his face though. Was there a reason?
I think, from my experience with him in the courtroom, he doesn't grant interviews. So it's very difficult to get a word out of him. So it was when we were asking questions, we kept asking questions, that he decided to speak to us on this call. But as always, he doesn't want to grant interviews.
I mean, it's interesting that he spoke, but you can't see his face. You can't see him look you in the eye and saying, this is what I'm saying, but he's looking away. Interesting. But apart from him, I know that Dr. Ndum didn't make it to court today, but the wife and children were there. What was their response to this?
Was the two children actually and the party chairman in their company? They made it to the courtroom. I mean, they got there at about 9 a.m. You could get a sense. We understand their father is up north campaigning, so they were very anxious. They went into the courtroom, and when they were exiting, I mean, definitely all smiles, and you can imagine they trying to get onto the phone lines, and you can imagine what they'll be saying to their dad. But they were very happy with this ruling from the court.
Okay, and were they in white again today?
No, this time around, Francis, I recall last time you were saying those are the colors of the PVP.
Yeah.
Well, this time around, it appears they were managing their expectations.
Okay.
Like my interpretation, once again, they opted to put on suits, rather one was in a blue suit, the other in a black.
No white.
No white this time around.
Thank you, Joseph. Let's now speak to Joseph Niaikwe too. He is okay. It seems we've lost him on the line there. We'll try and raise him back on the phones and get some answers to some questions. What does this mean now for his client in this case? Does he go about doing the correction of the anomalies on his forms normally from now and tomorrow, or this sets aside some more time for him, considering that after the ruling was done some 2 Fridays ago, you've not had the opportunity to do that which the High Court asked them to do, bring some of these and some analysis for you here in just a moment. We'll go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll begin to analyze and digest what we've been told by the Supreme Court today. So yes, the ruling has been given by the Supreme Court today. Let's try and understand what's happening since that decision was taken. We can speak to Eric Jakpasu, the head of communications at the Electoral Commission. Thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Right, so we're learning that already the parties or the disqualified aspirants are already making it to your office. Can we know what's happening as we speak now at the EC headquarters?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to our listeners. Yes, the Supreme Court ordered that we should give them up to tomorrow by the close of day for them to come for their forms and then do the necessary corrections. The last time I checked at the electoral services, some of the parties have come forward to have their forms for the necessary corrections to be made. I was there, I saw IPP came around, I saw PNC around, and PPP are also around to pick their forms and then do the necessary corrections. Okay, now when you say necessary corrections, in the view of the Commission, what exactly are they supposed to do? You know, there are a lot of requirements to meet the criteria to be a candidate. We are talking about the number of subscribers to your forms, where we have 2 per administrative district. We are talking about your consent to the nomination. We are also referring to all the provisions on the statutory declarations of the form. I think these are the key ones that you must make sure you meet the legal requirements. Okay, now we know that even before today's ruling, there were quite a number of suits against the Electoral Commission. What does the Commission, first of all, make of the decision by the Supreme Court today? You know, the spate of cases that were going to the various courts for resolution threatened to jeopardize the electoral calendar, because we had about 12 aspirants who were going to the court for redress. And if we allowed all these 12 people to go to the court, the electoral calendar would be thrown out of gear. So the decision of the Commission was to go to the Supreme Court and then get clarity and then get finality to all this. So we are very comfortable with the ruling of the court, to the extent that the court has now determined the nomination period by saying that we should close nomination by the close of work tomorrow. We should give them the opportunity to correct the errors. And the very good part is that all proceedings of election disputes in the state court, in the High Court, have been put on hold. Then we also have now the opportunity to make a final determination on all the submissions which will be made by the various aspirants. So we are very comfortable with the ruling of the Supreme Court. Okay, just for clarity, are you saying that even though these individuals have come to pick up their forms
to go correct their mistakes. If they come back with some more mistakes, that means door closed on them permanently, I guess.
Yeah, at this point, I wouldn't be speaking for the returning officer, so I would rather speak to the law. You see, and when you see the law regulating the nomination of candidates, if at the end of the stipulated period of the receipt of nomination, the returning officer has some grounds to, as it were, invalidate a form, the returning officer is supposed to report this to the commission, and the commission will make a determination within 7 days. So it is not as if there's going to be automatic acceptance of all these forms. You are supposed to take it and make the necessary corrections by the close of work tomorrow, which means that after you have submitted, the commission should now make a determination.
Okay. If what you just said is anything to go by, you just mentioned that the Supreme Court has now spelled out clearly the nomination period. Is that to implicitly have us believe that that period was not clearly stated from the beginning?
Yeah, the per our understanding of the rules and regulations, we actually came out with a nomination period. You know, the 29th and 30th was the nomination period, and we closed the nomination, we received the forms. But when we got to the High Court, the ruling of the High Court centered around the nomination period. You know, there were varied interpretations to this one, where the court said that we did not define a nomination period, and even went on to say that to the extent that we even received the filing fee after the 30th of September, it meant that the nomination period went beyond the 30th of September. That is why we went to the Supreme Court to seek clarity. You know, this is a matter of law, and because in matters of law, there are varied interpretations to what the law says. That is precisely why we have the judiciary to determine what the law means at any particular point in time. That is what got us to the Supreme Court. So with the Supreme Court now saying that we should end the nomination period tomorrow, then per our expectation, some finality or closure has been brought to this issue of nomination.
Okay. I get that point, and thank you for that clarification. But again, Mr. Jakmasu, there are still some issues that we need to discuss. 29 days to go to the elections, December 7. First of all, what does this mean for the printing of the statement of poll for the presidential elections?
Oh, all that it means is that if by the close of work tomorrow, when we determine those who have met the requirement and should be on the ballot, we just fix a date to ballot, for them to ballot for their positions on the ballot paper. Then we'll move straight into the printing of the notices of poll and then the ballot paper for the presidential. A time, I'm sure, by which we would have finished printing the parliamentary ballot papers. Because as we speak, we have finished with the notices of poll. They have gone to their various constituencies and they are posted all over. And we are in the process of printing the parliamentary ballot. So with this ruling of the Supreme Court, in no time, we will determine those who should be on the ballot paper, their various positions on the ballot paper. Then we can proceed with the printing of the notices of poll and then the ballot paper for the presidential.
Okay. I need to ask this. Have you already distributed the albums for the voters registered to the various political parties? We know that should be done 60 clear days to the election. Has that been done yet?
Yeah, we wrote to them. We wrote to them about 3 weeks ago. You know, the voters register per the regulations should be given to the political parties in a form which shall be determined by the Electoral Commission. And when we're talking about biometric register, we are talking about a very large file here. So the commission, with the agreement of the political parties, we decided that they should take it in soft copy. So about 3 weeks ago, we wrote to them to submit, to bring forward their external hard drives for the files to be given to them. And I'm sure those who have brought the external drives, the files, the registers have been given to them.
Okay, you say for those who may have brought it, but I'm keen to find out which parties have come for it, because we know that in the past this has been a thorny issue where the parties say they've not received it, and then it turns out to become a different matter on election day.
Oh, parties have submitted. I know MPP, they have been given, NDC has been given, PNC has collected, PPP, they have come forward for it. I know Ghana Freedom Party submitted their Senate drive at the last IPAC meeting. So I want to believe by now they've also received it. So as at Tuesday, the 8th of Friday, the 8th of October, about 6 political parties have received their copies of the register in a soft form.
All right, thank you for your time, Eric Kofi Jakwasu, Head of Communications at the Electoral Commission, giving us details of what's happening today. So we know that the parties, we know that for the PNC, the PPP, and the IPP, they've already gone to the Electoral Commission as we speak to pick up their nomination forms which they earlier presented, to go fix all mistakes in these forms and come back and present before close of day tomorrow, after which, per what we've heard from Mr. Jakwasu, they will make a determination based on what is in the document to determine who will make it onto the ballot box, even for balloting, ballot paper, I beg your pardon, for balloting for the December 7 elections. Now, we know that there are issues with the presidential balloting because of the legal suits and what we've heard today from the Supreme Court. The parliamentary leg is already in motion, as you heard Mr. Jakwasu mention. We know that the notice of poll has already been issued and has been pasted in some constituencies across the country. Jennifer Kramwa has more on this.
On December 7th, and the Electoral Commission is trying to follow at least some of the protocol on its calendar. As you can see on my left-hand side, showing potential voters how they are to vote during this year's election. To my bottom left, showing the pictures on the ballot plus the symbols and where one must put his or her thumbprint. They've also shown the wrong marking of the ballot with the pictures, the symbol, and then the thumbprint in the center. If there's no thumbprint on either side, if there's a thumbprint on 2 boxes, and if you write the name in the middle of the box, that also makes the ballot paper invalid.
So that's Jennifer showing us some of the posters in town. In fact, that one is actually on voter education, what people must do before the December 7 election, what they will do on that day, how they're expected to vote on that day. Well, we know that, as we mentioned earlier, the notice of poll has already been issued. You can't find them in some, in fact, not even some, all constituencies across the country as we speak. If you have seen any around, you can send us a picture of that also via our social media handles so we can share with the rest of the world. But still on elections, today, November 7, if Parliament had not agreed to the amendment, today should have been election day in Ghana. But because of what we know from the Parliament and its proceedings for the push for the amendments, which did not happen, we are doing this a month from today. But what if it was election day today? Will we be ready? Will we be in a position to go about things the way we should? Hannah Odame has more in this report.
Oh yes, we are ready because, you know, this is not the first time we are doing such a thing. Ghana has been to the polls so many times, and Ghanaians are abreast with the current issues concerning how to comport yourself during elections. I believe that there are other views from other people trying to let people feel as if when we are going for election, that is the end of the world. No, we'll go vote nicely, and at the end of the day, we'll choose the one who is fitting to rule the country.
So if you think that the EC will be up on its toes by the time we get to December 7, because you know that I'm asking because there should have been notice of polls by today, if nothing at all. The presidential candidates should have known where they are positioned. None of these things have been done as of now. Do you think all can be done before we go to the polls on December 7?
I'm very sure. Looking at the pace at which court rulings comes out when cases are gone there.
Are you abreast of the latest ruling from the court today?
It means that it's going to take just a day to do that. When they do the correction today and tomorrow, they're able to submit. Life goes on. We'll still move on. And I'm sure by the end of, on the 6th of December, we will be prepared to vote on the 7th.
Oh yes, irrespective of the court actions that is going on, we are hoping a day or two the court will come out with the verdicts and everything will be okay. After the election, 7th December it must come on, and so we are hoping for the 7th December.
Okay, so today the court came out to say that all the presidential candidates that the EC disqualified, they should be allowed to correct their mistakes and come back tomorrow. Do you think that will stretch the process further?
Oh, if they are being given that permission to go and correct their mistakes and come back, okay, that is for on the better side of us all Ghanaians.
Do you have any doubt that we might have to extend the election?
We are all Ghanaians. Many of us have no doubt of extension. We are all hoping that 7th December we will surely vote.
I don't think the EC is ready, but for Ghana as a country we are ready, but the EC is not ready yet because you know there is a court issue going on here, there, but we are waiting for the EC. When they finish their court issues, then we can see what next to do.
1 month to elections, is it not becoming quite late for the EC to get ready?
Actually, for me, I would say it's late for the EC because, you know, I don't know, maybe they will give a new date for the election because due to these court issues and stuff, you know, I think the EC have to do everything accordingly.
As a foreigner, all that is going on, would you say that our country is ready for elections?
Yes, your country is ready for election because they are preparing. I've seen the campaign and the campaign is okay. Even though Ghana election is good because I've seen some two parties, they clash and they did not fight. And then that's a good and peaceful election.
Are you comparing to your country?
Yes, the way you're doing your things is okay more than our country. Because sometimes when the two parties clash like that in Nigeria, they will fight and then they can just kill and some people will be wounded. Okay. So your own is okay.
I'm sure you heard about all the court issues that the Electoral Commission has to deal with.
Okay.
Do you think that will stretch the process?
The people in charge of the election is like they are okay and they are preparing very well.
On what basis do you say so?
The way they are preparing on TV, something like that. They put everything is in order.
So much as many are showing signs of anxiety, well, the word from Dr. Kwesi Ening, a security analyst, is that we should not panic too much. The December elections will come off as scheduled. He also doubles as the Director of Academic Affairs and Research at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. He spoke to us on the sidelines of a two-day national workshop on the root causes of violent extremism in the sub-region.
This is a test of the strength and resilience of our national institutions. There are no shortcuts to progress, and therefore we've got to go through the laid down procedures and the processes to ensure that those who feel aggrieved at least have a fair hearing. For me, going to court and the courts giving a judgment and the EC taking it up to the Supreme Court shows that resilience that I am talking about. But I think we need also, from the institutional side, to be sending messages that will calm people. I think there's a certain sense of unease. Will the elections hold? If they don't hold, what will happen? How will different political parties respond and how will communities respond? I think we need a narrative that says the 17 member judges who will deal with these cases will deal with them expeditiously, fairly, transparently. So people should just go about their normal business, and as much as possible, we will hold the elections on the 7th of December. When there's a lacuna relating to the information available, then people fill it with falsehoods, misinterpretations, and that creates fear.
From where you sit as a security analyst, do you think we have all it takes to go to the polls on 7th December?
From where I sit, yes. From where I sit, yes. I think it's important for us to believe and to trust that the institutional processes will deal with these complaints as expeditiously as possible, on time. And why do I have this optimistic view? Exactly. Because as a nation, we don't have any choice than to trust that institutions will function well. Because the alternative is way too frightening to contemplate.
Meanwhile, the African Union Special Representative on Counter-Terrorism, Lieutenant Colonel Gwebulate, says the African Union is keen about how Ghana is going to conduct itself in this year's polls. Hence, the need for all parties to respect the decision of the court and allow the rule of law to prevail.
You already have AU observers here at this time. Then you should know that the AU is serious about the elections. After all, Ghana is an example. So everybody wants to see, things go well in Ghana, and nobody would want to see, things deteriorate in Ghana. I think that we should all contribute to make it happen. So, the end state should be that, we have free, fair and transparent, elections, and everybody, respects the neighbor, and we do things according to the rule of law. Well, I think that it's basically a matter of the rule of law, and it should be handled along those lines of the rule of law. So, if the justice system takes a decision, it must be respected.
Now, speaking on discussions targeted at addressing terrorism in the West African sub-region, Colonel Gwebulate touched on the need for Ghana to adopt a long-term plan in fighting counter-terror.
It's important that we consider counter-terrorism, particularly at this time. Basically because we want to live in peace. We want to continue to have a way of life that we know, and we don't want any disruption. And terrorism seeks to disrupt our normal way of life, and therefore we need to address that. So if there is extremism, if people are beginning to resort to violence and not the rule of law in addressing their grievances, then we must be concerned. And it is that violent extremism that gradually culminates into terrorist acts. And therefore, there is the need to begin to look at that. And as this workshop seeks to do, we want to look at the root causes of violent extremism down to the community level so that we can begin to shape our response and ensure that we can live in peace.
Shaping our response, what key critical areas are we looking at?
In shaping response, we would want to look at the root causes of violent extremism. So what is making people in the communities become violent? Why are they resorting to violence as a means of resolving whatever problems they have? That needs to be addressed. And then also, how do we deny extremists a space to maneuver in the communities and recruit people and radicalize other people? That also needs to be addressed. So those root causes, even including poverty, good governance and things like that, will need to be looked at critically in shaping whatever response and architecture, therefore, that we need to evolve to address the issue of terrorism. When you say Choboy or in the local community, will the local community come up as a local community to do what needs to be done, or they will be coming as parties and say this man doesn't belong to us and things? So those are issues that need to be addressed to galvanize the spirit of the community, so that the community as a community can address the issues that it faces.
Okay, I know this workshop is for the sub-region, but let's narrow it down to Ghana with 29 days to go for the polls.
Ghana is an example. Ghana is peaceful, and everybody, hopes that it will remain as such. Well, yeah, it's true. You have an election coming, and we all hope that it will be peaceful as it has been, because Ghana, like I've said, is an example. I think, in spite of the elections and whatnot, we also have to prepare for the long term. And that is what I think this whole workshop is about, preparing for the long term, shaping the community in such a way that we have appropriate responses. And those responses should be preventive instead of actually waiting for the event to take place and then we start running up and down. And that involves, shaping a counterterrorism architecture, shaping a counterterrorism strategy, and having those structures that will implement that strategy. You need a structure that will implement whatever strategy you have. So, for instance, if we look recently, Kenya has been working on a national counterterrorism center. So that is a structure that is tasked to look at the issue of terrorism and whatever issues come out of that and address them and shape the response and sort of direct the response. That is what I'm talking about.
Well, Ghana's Interior Minister, Prosper Bani, says Ghana has taken significant steps to boost security in the country.
You witness the horrendous attacks on the people of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Cote d'Ivoire. At that time, there was every indication by security experts in the region that Ghana was going to be attacked. Some other country was going to be attacked in the West African region. To the extent that even our religious leaders started having dreams and interventions that Ghana was going to be attacked. We had to go down on our knees in churches to pray that the Lord will protect us. All these things are significant, but it is the moment of the times we have that we are all scared. And Ghana took very significant steps to respond and to provide confidence to our people. You realize that we beefed up security in our public places, in the malls, in churches, in mosques. Today, as we speak, you can't just enter any hotel in Ghana without being checked, body and whatever you are carrying, electronically. Are we doing the best? We are taking the right steps. We have to do more because we still recognize some gaps. We need abundant resources, we need intelligence sharing, we need capacity, human resources to manage and protect our people. The global perception or the global leadership thought from the UN and AU and ECOWAS is for us to invest in prevention so that we do not have the experience of being attacked before responding. However, let me just tell you this about prevention. Globally, mobilizing resources for prevention is a horrendous task.
So that's for security and its relation to elections in Ghana today.